Live from Cool Boys Central.
You're the boss now, man. I'm boss up here.
From bat tips to bat nips, we are just cool boys revisiting Batman, the animated series, and wearing hats. This is Batman and Beyond, a Cool Boys podcast.
I see Batman and Beyond.
Greetings, Cool Boy Nation, and welcome to another installment of Batman and Beyond.
Woo woo!
A Cool Boys podcast. I'm Ballard.
And I'm Steve.
So cool.
I'm thinking of getting the Blu-ray set.
You should. It looks amazing.
Yeah, it does.
I mean, some of the side-by-sides I've seen have been purposely destroying the 480p version because I'm like, I have the 480p version. I'm like, it doesn't look that bad. Like, whatever you're showing me a heavily compressed 480p version that's like ripped off of YouTube.
There was some shots, I think, where it was like, oof, it seemed like it was like just not clean. You know, it was like a dirty, like it was like film or something, and it was like a dirty cell.
So cool. Tonight's episode is Heart of Steel, Part 1. The episode was directed by Kevin Altieri and written by Brian Stevens, or Bryn Stevens.
I'm going with Bryn.
Bryn?
Yeah, Bryn.
Bryn Stevens. This episode came out November 16th, 1992, and the villain, of course, is H.A.R.D.A.C.
Ooh.
Hey, Steve, Wikipedia says several robberies take place at major companies, including Wayne Enterprises, and Bruce Wayne, as Batman, discovers the thief to be a mechanical briefcase. Bruce meets with his old friend Carl Rossum, an expert in robotics who lost his daughter to a vehicle accident years ago. Spoiler alert, Wikipedia, that comes in episode 2. That's a part 2 spoiler. That's not even in part 1.
You tell him. You know what? I think you should write a letter.
I will, to Wikipedia directly.
Mm-hmm.
He also meets Rossum's assistant, Randa Dwayne, and Rossum's ultimate creation, a prototype AI known as H.A.R.D.A.C, which stands for Holographic Analytical Reciprocating Digital Computer. H.A.R.D.C. So where does that A in H.A.R.D.A.C come from, the second A?
Well, I had to write it down, and I think it's like the digital is what I guessed.
It's the digital A.
That's what I guessed.
Yeah, it's the A in digital is the second A in H.A.R.D.A.C.
It was like the most retarded name ever, I thought. Like,
I like the name H.A.R.D.A.C because it's got hard in it, but
yeah, you would.
But the reach wasn't there, you know, like holographic analytical reciprocating digital computer.
Like, that's not even what it does. It was making, fake people.
Yeah, shouldn't they go with like replacement or something like that, like human analog replacement, like something like that?
I don't know. It just didn't make a lot of sense. I guess it wasn't doing what it was programmed to do, maybe. But the holographic analytical, like what the F? So it was supposed to analyze holograms.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Holograms
that are reciprocating. Like, these are just
Batman
big
loves
words.
holograms. These writers love holograms. Remember when during the Josiah Wormwood episode where Batman's like hologram when the lady that's about to get by the train is just a hologram?
I bet that was H.A.R.D.A.C's work. You know, because that was a really good hologram. That wasn't
easily
a normal hologram.
Carl Rossum sold to Josiah Wormwood some hologram tech.
I was wondering about that, and now the pieces are in place and everything is making sense.
It finally clicks in, doesn't it?
It does.
Wikipedia continues. Bruce invites Dwayne to dinner, and around the same time, certain civilians start acting strangely. Most surprisingly is when Dwayne unexpectedly leaves Wayne Manor while Bruce is on the phone, and the entire Batcave turns on Batman. There's a note here, Steve, at the bottom. It says, this episode marks the series debut appearance of Barbara Gordon, but she's not yet Batgirl. All of Barbara's starring appearances were in episodes written by Bryn Stevens.
Really? That's an interesting note.
Yeah.
You know, regarding Barbara Gordon, I thought that this was, like, very interesting to have her included and see her like that. This is basically the beginning of her turning into Batgirl. And,
yeah, I would say no. I would say next week's episode is more of that.
Well, this series of episodes, but
The two-parter.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
It's like the origin to the origin episode.
Yeah. For this episode, just starting in the beginning of it, this is like a very sort of like sexual episode. I felt like, more so than even feel like the Catwoman episodes.
Why? Because there's nudity in them, like towards the end of this episode.
Just in the way that like the guards all like kind of fascinated with the hot chick that drops off the briefcase, and
even the hot female guard.
And then the Bruce is like all infatuated with Barbara, weirdly, and then also all like
which we should get into when Barbara shows up. Absolutely.
And then like he's all and the same thing with whatever her name is. I forget what's the scientist. What's the android? The name of the
woman
android.
R.U.R. Dwayne.
Yeah, so whenever, he's all like creepy with her too.
Yeah, but she's fucking hot. I mean, she straight up looks like Mamie Van Doren or Jane Mansfield or Marilyn Monroe. Like, she's got Marilyn Monroe's like beauty mark, but she's got the sex appeal and the sass of Jane Mansfield.
But I'm just saying, for a kid show, this was definitely like I felt like they were pushing it in terms of like
sexuality
or whatnot. Yeah, I was like, oh wow,
Oh, for sure. I mean, later in this episode, we have Bruce literally taking Dwayne.
He's like, va 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 boom.
He takes her and has like a candlelit fireplace dinner with her. Like, I mean, you only do that if you're gonna fuck.
He was trying to get some information from her. The only way he knows how.
Fuck him.
Mm-hmm.
Fuck them first, and they scream all the secrets while they're coming. Steve, something I wanted to point out is that the actress who plays R.U.R., the voice of R.U.R., Leslie Eileen Easterbrook. So I did a little bit of research for this episode because I'm really into Terminator, and a couple clues kicked in also about something else about this episode that I did not catch on to when I was a child. So R.U.R., played by, like I said, Leslie Eileen Easterbrook, she also played the character of Rhonda from Laverne and Shirley. I think R.U.R. might be a slight play, like a slight little nod to the fact that this woman played a character on Laverne and Shirley called Rhonda. And I would think Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and everyone else involved, especially Kevin Altieri or even maybe Bryn Stevens, must have watched Laverne and Shirley when they were children.
And they found out that she was going to be the voice and threw it in there.
Well, I don't know if they found out she was going to be the voice. Maybe they went and got her voice or something like that. I'm not really entirely sure. Something I want to point out that we're watching right now on screen is that Bruce, who gets essentially shoved to a room by the security because of all the shenanigans going on in the Wayne Tower. He goes into the security room. They lock the door and they're like, "Stay here, Mr. Wayne. Don't go anywhere." And he goes, "Don't go anywhere," or whatever the fuck in his Batman voice. Touches the wall. And then the fucking wall, turns around like a turnstile, and all of a sudden he's like, in some like secret part of the Wayne Tower where he can become Batman. What if one security guard's like, "Oh, dude, I think I'm gonna faint," and put his hand on the wall, and then like all of a sudden the wall started moving. Not only would he be like, "I am fainting. What the fuck is going on?" Like his whole equilibrium would be messed up. But on top of that, he'd be like, "What did we just fucking find?"
Yeah,
like,
it would be like this? Wayne Tower is haunted, or it would be like one of those sort of things.
Right.
I wanted to point out that briefcase thing, that awesome briefcase robot.
Super awesome.
That goes and basically has a laser gun, chops down an elevator.
Laser vision. It has laser vision.
When it goes to get the computer chips, it like probably destroyed those computer chips
by sucking them with a vacuum.
Yeah, it just sucks them up, and like they're all getting scratched, and
Steve,
I don't see how
this is
that
92.
works.
This is 92. Very few people had a cursory knowledge of computers and computer chips. I don't think people were aware of how brittle.
Well, obviously the holographic analytical reciprocating digital computer
H.A.R.D.A.C.
knows a little bit about computers. Oh, another thing I wanted to point out that I just saw is that they really utilize the bat glider thing in this episode.
Too much so,
oh,
Steve.
Yeah,
okay, so a few episodes back, we watched Eternal Youth, and out of nowhere, it's an episode where Alfred and his girlfriend Maggie go to a health spa, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a Poison Ivy episode. And we're watching it, Steve, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they cut to Batman just hang gliding, right, on the back glider. He's just hang gliding and flying into the fucking resort. And you're kind of like, where did he come from? Now we know. He got the hang glider at the top of Wayne Tower and then hang glided with the back glider all the way to the resort where Poison Ivy was, turning people into wood.
I think he has hang gliders kind of hidden throughout the city. Yeah, I think that's not the only one.
They're all around the city.
It's like an easy thing for him. Then he pretends that he's a bat. He has this weird sort of like cosplay sort of thing going on. He goes
Super
around
cosplay.
Jumps around. He's like, but did you see how the shadow makes him look like a bat when he's in that hang glider?
The silhouette.
The silhouette.
Yeah. So what we're watching right now is Randa Dwayne's character is firing guns out of the back of her car to try to hit Bruce, and in the process, we get our first Steve-sponsored cliffhanger act break where Batman crashes into the shoreline. But one thing I want to point out, Steve, once again, did a little research for this episode. So Randa's license plate reads R.U.R. That is not. This is the first thing that made me want to do research, just so you know. There's no way that is just by chance, right? And it's not an Easter egg for R.U.R. So I was like, what the fuck is R.U.R.? So it stands for a play called R.U.R. that came out in 1920 by a Czech playwright. I have his name over here. His name is Karel Čapek. Now, I just butchered the fuck out of that name in Czech. And the R.U.R. stands for Rossum's Universal Robots, R.U.R. The main character, or one of the main characters in this episode is named Rossum, right? So that's obviously, a little wink and a nod to Carl Rossum. And Carl spelled with a K, right? So that's like super like Eastern European-y, right? So it totally plays to like, Czech like world or whatever. I'm sure anyone in Czech Republic right now is just like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah,
Eastern European?
The author's name was Karel Čapek, right? With a K.
Carol, I thought it was pronounced, but yeah, maybe it's Carl.
I'm looking at it
sense.
right now. I'm looking at the note that
it's Karel.
At least on the Wikipedia entry I'm looking at, it says it's Karl, just like Karel Čapek, and the last.
Okay,
name is
look
C.
up the actual R.U.R. on Wikipedia, and it says R.U.R. is a 1920 science fiction play by a Czech writer Karel Čapek. Čapek could be even wrong. We're like arguing. Oh yeah, so it's Carl Rossum. It's all kinds of fucking relevance. So here's what's important though about this play. I didn't know this. I guess I had like a tertiary knowledge of this, right? Like a tertiary understanding of this, but I didn't actually know this. So I knew that the word robot did not come naturally and was something that was eventually used in the English language way down the line, in the process of the world, right? And the vernacular of the world. But I didn't know it came from this play. This is the play that created the word robot.
Wow, this is a great education moment. I think we need some sound effects.
So there's also some great little hints in this episode, Steve, that I like that are very foreshadowing. So we just had Barbara show up, and we'll get into that in a second. But Gordon, not Barbara Gordon, we're talking about Commissioner James, he flushes a little bit. You can see him blushing. So there's a clue that that's a human being, because later they make references to things like when Bruce first comes across Rhonda, he's like, you're so cold, right? And she's like, oh, I was in the refrigerator. And then when Barbara touches her dad later, she's like, Dad, you're so cold. You were like outside for 10 seconds. Like, why are you so cold, right? There are a lot of little nice nods that Rhonda, you don't know, is actually a robot. Or an android. Like, you don't know that. That is a twist that happens in the second part.
I didn't find it to be a twist, but yeah, I guess as a kid, as you're saying, it seemed pretty obvious to me.
Well, is that because she's femme fatale?
Because she was communicating. This was before they had Bluetooth or whatever. She was telepathically communicating with the H.A.R.D.A.C,
Yeah, inside Bruce Manor.
Yeah,
that's right.
It was like pretty obvious.
Bruce Manor, inside Wayne Manor.
A robot. They just in the episode right now, Bruce has just arrived at Carl Rossum's place, and it's just so great what they having the actor from Blade Runner.
William Sanderson. Steve, also the actor from Deadwood.
Oh, for sure. But this is playing up his Blade Runner.
J.F. Sebastian.
It was so fun to see. I felt like they were definitely doing some parallels with his character from Blade Runner.
For sure.
But it was also they were just having fun making these weird robots too. I like that whole scene when they have him go in there and he puts his feet on the footrest and it starts massaging him or whatnot, and everything's automated.
Totally. No, you're totally right. One of the things I even noticed about that was that, like, just like in Blade Runner, Sebastian in Blade Runner, right? William Sanderson's character there versus Rossum in Batman, they both have robot toys. And that's a big deal to Sebastian because they're his only friends.
Uh-huh.
You know, and this Carl Rossum character is absolutely, to me at least, like very like hermited, like secluded. Like he's also very much kind of like an antisocial person as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so they definitely share similarities. You definitely have to think that Bryn Stevens, Bruce Timm, Paul Dini, Kevin Altieri are huge fans of Blade Runner.
The difference, though, is that like in Blade Runner, his character was like an idiot, and
no, he's an idiot here too.
I don't. He's a genius scientist in this.
He's a genius scientist in Blade Runner. He's a genetic specialist.
I think
he works on like the neurology of the replicants of Replicant 6. I think is actually the one he worked on.
I guess I would have to. I felt like he had some sort of like.
Okay. So in Batman, he's probably what? He's had a child who's died in a car crash. He's probably 40 something, right? Close to 40s. In Blade Runner, he's 25. So he's a younger character in Blade Runner because the whole idea is that he's aging too fast. That's why he couldn't get off world.
Mm-hmm.
So he is younger, so you could think of him as more naive in Blade Runner, and it would make sense. But I think they're both supposed to be equally geniuses.
Oh, okay. I never thought of him as a smart person in Blade Runner.
I think smart people come in all shapes and sizes.
Oh, okay.
So we glossed over a really important part earlier.
Tell me about it.
This is the first appearance of Barbara Gordon, as we mentioned in the introduction, and she's in college.
Yeah.
And Batman can fuck her, so it doesn't make it super creepy, but absolutely creepy. Nonetheless, when Bruce walks up to her and goes, "Barbara, you've grown," and then he walks up to her and then touches her face like he's John Travolta. It is the fucking weirdest shit. Like, there's no need for this creepy Bruce Wayne, like, over-touching on Barbara, who's, like, what, at youngest 18, at oldest 22?
Mm-hmm. Well, he was happy to see her.
Way too happy. Like the priest in Little Mermaid. He had a huge boner.
Oof.
Do you appreciate that priest's boner? And one of the things we get in this episode again, Steve, is another cliffhanger act break.
Oh, yeah.
When Gordon is replaced.
I think that, when I was watching
Terminator.
I thought that they were playing, sorry to interrupt, that they were building a replacement for Bruce Wayne. And
the nude character you're watching you think is Bruce. Totally.
Yeah, that they were totally like making you think that H.A.R.D.A.C was deciding as Bruce was there, we need to replace him.
Right.
Instead, they do Gordon. Which is an interesting choice, and that's what brings Barbara into the fold, I guess.
Yeah. It's a smart move to be able to start establishing Batgirl, which is what this episode does the best, as well as next week's episode, Heart of Steel Part 2, which is maybe a little bit more so a real origin to the origin of Batgirl.
For sure.
These are both great slow burns to that character.
This has a lot of people laying in front of fires, I just noticed. They had Barbara laying in front of a fire. And
sexy.
They've had, that Bruce is ending. He was having a little, coffee after dinner in front of the fire.
Coffee.
But, again, he just leaves her alone. He's just met this lady. And he's like, I gotta go. Alfred will see you out or something.
Steve.
And just leaves. He's Batman.
You're obviously not incredibly wealthy, because if you're incredibly wealthy, you have no fear at all about anyone taking anything. It's all replaceable.
It just seems, but if you're Batman, I would have those fears that like someone's going to randomly pull that one book that makes.
He doesn't have that fear in this episode alone. He literally made a wall, like a dummy wall, in the security guards' break room. It is the worst place in the world. The people that closest on your staff that resemble police officers are in the same room as a fucking dummy wall. It's insane.
Yeah, he's pretty careless.
You know what I liked again as another reference that we saw, Steve? The place Carl Rossum works is called Cyber fucking Tron.
Ooh.
Which is, of course,
Transformers?
the home planet of the Transformers, yeah.
Yeah.
You got the touch. You got the power.
I like how she has these X-ray goggles that can see through like pipes or whatever. It's like showing her the whole layout. She finds
Yeah,
the
they're like
secret.
blueprint goggles.
Yeah, she finds the secret door.
But then she also throws them on the fucking ground as she walks in the
Weird,
secret
yeah,
door.
Like, why? She's done with them.
Well, she's also a robot, right? So she's thinking probably like, streamlined. Like, I don't need these anymore, and I'm just gonna fucking like make it obvious as fuck because I just electrocuted the shit out of Alfred. Let's just face it, Alfred's had it coming. The
But,
guy's a monster.
Alfred comes back later and is just basically he has like no memory of it. He doesn't
Perfectly
remember
fine.
that he was attacked. I was like, that doesn't make any sense.
No heart attacks, no seizures, nothing. That old man got electrocuted big time by some like super overpowered taser.
He just wakes up. I don't know what happened. He doesn't even say like I got electrocuted or I felt weird or anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty weird. Oh no,
I don't recall, Master Wayne. Yeah, it's funny when people get knocked out. I used to work with the UFC, and I would sit ringside, and when people would get knocked out, you would hear them like come to, and they would speak to like Big John or Herb Dean or Steve Mazzagatti or Mario Yamasaki, and they would be like, "Those are refs."
Are those?
And they would just be like, "All right, I'm ready to fight," and you'd be like, they'd be like, "No, the fight's over." Or there'd be times where like, "Okay, I'm ready to go to the arena. Let's go to the fight." And they're like, "You're in the arena. You lost the fight."
That's
like
that's so crazy.
People when they get knocked out, they do resort back. Like
Yeah.
they have like a time lapse where they don't know a certain
Alright.
span of time anymore.
All
And
right.
but I do think it comes back. Like it slowly does return. And then as we finish up the episode here, we see that Bruce clearly fully intended to fuck Randa. I mean, he rushed home to go fuck her. I guess you could think he was maybe worried about Alfred, but it looked like he was rushing home to go fuck her. When he called the house, no one picked up. He's like, "Oh shit, she left. Oh, I better go catch her on the road. Let her know I want to fuck her." But I like that Randa and H.A.R.D.A.C clearly know Batman's secret identity, and it's the first time in the series where a villain has figured out his secret identity, and like it's unadmissibly so. You know what I mean? Like. It's like, this is his identity. Like this, and we know it, and it's done. Like, the greatest thing about it is that they're both digital. And they're both people, right? The H.A.R.D.A.C being the giant supercomputer, and Randa being an android. That you can easily disperse of them in the next episode, in part 2, without it being a big issue. But I love that you end this episode with, they know the secret. They can drop that shit any fucking time they want. And then just spoil the beans. And then you get, what, Steve? How does it actually end?
Oh, with the Batcave turning against him?
Turning against Batman, right?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Do you think he has like that booby trap set up for like other people or something, or that was something that the robot created that was like gonna go there and grab him?
And maybe it was like supposed to be like his like robot arms if he needed them to touch something like maybe say like clay that would maybe technically renew you. Maybe it's like that. Maybe they're like laboratory arms or some shit. But they are ridiculous. You don't need arms that are going to grab you and then lift you 100 feet in the air. Like, that is not necessary.
And it was all hacked.
Yep. So we got that to be continued sign, Steve.
What boys would you give this?
I give it 4 out of 5, Steve. I may have tipped my hat earlier on. But yeah, I liked it. I liked it a lot. I liked it when it came out, and I like it now. I loved the Terminator, and I loved Terminator 2 Judgment Day. I actually saw them in reverse order. I saw Terminator 2 first.
Me too. I think
second.
most kids of our age saw Terminator 2
Yeah,
first.
because I think T2 is something that parents were more duped into letting kids watch.
Yeah.
Because the Terminator was like way too clearly like a horror film, R-rated horror sci-fi film. While the Terminator 2 Judgment Day was like, hey, get your kids, McDonald's fucking shit.
It was PG-13, wasn't it?
No, they both are.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Yeah, they both are, yeah.
I remember seeing that in the theaters. I was excited.
Terminator 2 has Robert Patrick's balls, like, clearly in one of the shots.
That's PG-13. Jeez.
Yeah, Robbie Patrick's balls. Yeah, but I gave it 4 out of 5 just because I really do enjoy it. I enjoy the slow burn. I tend to, enjoy science fiction also based plot lines. As long as they have as long as they can maintain some relevance to their own rules they establish in their world, I'm okay with it. As long as you can set rules, I'm fine. And this show has set rules for robot fighting with Batman. We saw it with Captain Clown, with the Joker's Captain Clown from The Last Laugh.
There was something that's common, I think, in kids shows that are kind of violent, is that they throw in androids so they could like rip off their heads or do these things that they can't do to like normal humans.
And I love it, Steve.
Oh yeah,
I love that. It's my favorite thing. So we're really gonna get this next week because Batman fights like 1 android, then he fights 5 androids, then he fights 3 androids. Like he has to kill them all. So they all die violent deaths that any human being dying would just be like hard R type of deaths. And I love that they purposefully get away with it. I mean, you can tell, like, I'm sure there was like a note from like the executives that was like, push it. Go as far as you can.
Yeah, you see that you mentioned before about how the shows reminded you of like Samurai Jack, and that's one of the things that reminds me of Samurai Jack is like when they have these shots of Samurai Jack just like slicing through androids or robots, and they just show the gears like flying apart that are supposed to kind of be like the guts. I just imagine, that they wanted it to be.
So Steve, what are your boys?
I'm split, I guess. I feel like I want to give it 4, but like maybe 3.5. I have no idea. I'm gonna go with 4, I guess. I'll go. You convinced me. I like the whole people being replaced by robots theme that happens, in science fiction and comic books and whatnot. These are kind of like the Marvel version of the life model decoys or whatever they do.
LMDs.
And so it's like the beginning of that, I guess. And so that's kind of fun that they're already introducing that they can create androids that look just like their human counterpart, and even interact like Barbara. I guess it's more in the next one, but like it's
this one too.
Yeah, he interacts with her, and she doesn't like immediately be like, "You're not my dad."
He fucking knocks her teddy bear Wubsy or whatever the fuck right on the ground, and she's just like right away. She's like, "Oh, that's not daddy."
Yeah, but sometimes you have a bad day. You're like, fuck your stupid stuffed animal. Bah.
I'm fine. Isn't that what he says the whole episode?
I'm
fine.
I'm fine. And how can he argue with that? Someone's like, "What's wrong?" "I'm fine. Leave me alone. I'm fine."
Yeah, you sound fine. I'll leave all my questioning alone now. Thank you.
You haven't eaten anything. "I'm fine."
I'm fine. You're freezing cold still, and it's been hours since you've been next to the fireplace. I'm fine. Steve, I do want to point out something that I just kind of thought of right now when you were saying that about like science fiction comic books and like the idea of androids, robots, and humans being replaced. This really is kind of also not only setting the foundation for Barbara turning into Batgirl, but this is also really setting the foundation for a lot of Superman, the animated series storylines, because that's practically all he battles is either aliens or crazy superpowered villains or robots. And homages the Max Fleischer Supermans. So this is like kind of even that, I would say. It's homaging that, and that is so swell. I love this.
Yeah, pretty soon they I think they start developing the Superman counterpart to Batman, and that is totally, they have the whole Star Labs and all that stuff, and I don't think they use H.A.R.D.A.C. It would be interesting to see if it would have been fun, I guess, if...
No, H.A.R.D.A.C. comes back in Batman, but he doesn't ever return after that. The next episode we get with H.A.R.D.A.C. is not just Heart of Steel Part 2, but it's way down the line. It's like My Silicone Soul or some shit like that.
Oh, really?
And it's like H.A.R.D.A.C. released one last android. I think it's a Bruce Wayne android, right? I think it is. And that android goes on amok. Like runs a whole muck. And I don't know if Carl Rossum's in that video, if they got William Sanderson back for that. I really wonder if they did. I can't remember. I'm excited to see that one. Well, great bat stuff, Steve. This was a fucking awesome episode.
Yes.
Cool Boy Nation. Tune in next week. Same cool bat time. same Cool Bat channel. Cool Boy Bat Nation, be sure to let us bat know what you bat thought of Heart of Steel Part 1, or what your favorite bat episode is by emailing us at batmanandbeyondcoolboys@gmail.com. New episodes come out every Tuesday. Also, please check out our other great Cool Boy Central content with the Cool Boys Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, and Patreon. Be sure to like and subscribe to the Cool Boys. Also, review us on iTunes. You can donate to us on Patreon. It only costs $1, and you will receive special access to content too hot to air. You can find the Cool Boys on Patreon at www.patreon.com/coolboyspodcast. Thank you for listening. Stay cool, Cool Boy Bat Nation. Until next time, it's Byzies from Bat Ballard.
And that's Byzies from Bat Steve.
So cool.
Batman
And beyond.
Oh, yeah.
Batman
and beyond.